and welcome to episode 2 of Total Fusion Super League's Tea Party Tour of Britain, where this week Mark will be abbreviating it to...
TFSL TPT OB.
I think you've actually got that right, but I'm not even going to second check that. This week, the fun bus will be travelling to our home cities, Swansea, Cardiff. We're also doing Bristol, Reading, Shrewsbury and Plymouth. We've gone for the West, Wales, Shrewsbury sort of Wales on the border, and Reading is on the M4, so it was like an easy stretch for us to do. We'll start off tonight with, well, I think you start off tonight, Mark, if you want to start off with one of your teams, as we get straight into it. There's no tee-offs tonight. We did the tees.
Straight into it. Okay, Phil. Well, nice to see you all. And if I could just say Feliz Navidad to our Spanish contingent watching from Argentina and Lino Gerberg will be featured. Also, Nadolig Llawen, which is Welsh for Merry Christmas. And there we go. And Merry Christmas in English. Apologies that we haven't got the rest of the languages. Right then. So, I'll start us off with Reading tonight then. At Mercurial Town. Not far from England. So, Cam S9 is manager of Reading. And when I managed him to ask for a little bit about him, I got a little bit back. Not the most in the world. But he's a good singer, he reckons, on karaoke. He also plays the guitar.
Oh, wow.
So,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so you know where to go if you need a wedding singer. He used to work at Portsmouth Football Club, so that's not bad. He met a lot of high-profile players from home and away sides.
I thought he said he met a lot of high-profile players from home and away. There's many players on home and away.
Good day, mate. He also
Why Cam S9?
Cam S9, chicken liver tinny on the barbie. He also played in Alan Ball's charity game for his wife's passing. He met the likes of Roger Black and Eddie the Eagle Edwards, absolute legend as well. And Cam actually lives pretty close to Reading, so yeah, he didn't do much research on him, but that doesn't matter because I got a research for Reading. So we've had a little look into him, found a few bits and pieces for you guys, just to let you know. First, the boring stuff. Formed in 1871, played at the Majeski Stadium, and are nicknamed the Royals due to their location in Royal County of Berkshire. They used to be known as Biscuit Men due to their association with the biscuit company Huntley and Palmer's. So,
Biscuit Men, I like that.
Thanks for the biscuits, Reading. Thumbs up. We got a few facts about the town. Okay, so they're the largest town without city status in the UK. Probably quite a few people know that, and probably quite a few don't. They had the UK's first Little Chef restaurant in 1958 opening.
That's big. I used to love Little Chefs. Are they still around?
Well, in Reading they are, yeah, 59 years old. So big up Little Chef. And I found a pearly year when I was reading up about Reading. In 2011, the sausage casserole ended up in Reading Bus's lost property department.
A sausage casserole.
A sausage casserole, and it was actually claimed by Susan Stout, who thanked the company for rescuing her family dinner after her son had left it on the bus. So,
did they still eat it?
And they must have, yeah. Rescued the family dinner. So fair play, and well done, Susan, for phoning the lost property department to see if your casserole was still there.
A lot of people wouldn't have took such a brass gamble. Was it? I'm guessing it went down something like, if you lost a coat, a bag, no, sausage casserole. Let me just check in the back. We've got about 4 of them in today. Susan, what does it look like? Is it the red one with onions in it? I don't know why I'm doing Irish there. That just come on. I still got last episode in my head.
There's also 5 kinds of potato named after Reading. Can you have a guess as to what they are, Phil?
5? What? 5
kinds of potato.
Jacket?
No.
To be honest with you, my knowledge of names of potato is quite crushed.
Yeah, well, I'll enlighten you, and I'll enlighten all our viewers as well. They are the Abbey, the Regent, the Hero, the Ruby, and the Russet.
The Hero potato.
Hero potato, clearly named after the football side team for the Heroes.
Hero potato.
I have 5 superhero potatoes.
Sorry, we only have the Ruby. Hmm.
Oh, they'll have to do. And just a couple more snippets for you on Reading before I finish off. Philippa Langley, you may be aware of something that she's famous for. She's a lady that found the body of Richard III under a car park in Leicester a few years
I
ago.
do. I know a lot about Richard III and history. It's one of my big interests.
Yeah, well, she actually believes that the body, or the grave rather, of Henry I is under a car park in Reading. So clearly, an association with car parks in England and dead kings.
Yeah, my
Uh,
mate was saying this to me, to which I did try to explain to him. They were graves first. It's not like they were buried in the car parks, because when they were buried, cars weren't invented.
I was going to say, because would you be thinking that perhaps, the Egyptians buried their kings in, pyramids, and maybe the English thought, well, we'll put ours in a car park.
Or we go for a pint in the pub.
Yeah, and then head to Little Chef for a bite to eat. It makes sense. We have actually got a football stat for you as well, just to win. Red,
Let's keep the football stats to a minimum. It's not like it's a
yeah,
football show.
but Reading are officially football's unluckiest club, and I mean, you may remember this, Phil. I know I do. But they're the only side to finish second in football's second tier in England and not be promoted. And that was back in 94-95. But the Premier was reduced in size, so for 1 year only one side went up. How sickening is that, mind?
Oh,
Not
unlucky
even a
Reading.
player.
When I think of Reading, I just think the pride of the M4.
Yeah,
You're going the right way if you're at Reading. You're nearly in London. That's the end of the journey. That's what
yeah,
we
yeah.
feel.
And you're always happy when you're on a train. One more stop or two more stops to go, It's not
Reading,
far.
Paddington, next stop. I'll take over next with a place that you actually know quite a lot about because you're there quite a lot. Bristol
Yeah.
Rovers. War.
Oh,
War. I'll start off by nickname the Robins, the football stuff, the ground, Ashton Gate, a bit of football stats, the boring stuff, I guess. Club was founded in 1894 as Bristol South End. They changed their name to Bristol City on adapting professionalism 3 years later. They're the largest city in the southwest of England. And now we move on to things that are slightly a bit obscure about Bristol. The infamous pirate Blackbeard once had a hideaway cave in St Mary's Redcliffe Church. His original birthplace and childhood home still stands in Bristol Harbourside. So, I mean, that's huge because Blackbeard's a
yeah.
massive. He was on, what's it called? Pirate Show we watched.
Oh, yeah, Black Sails.
You didn't like him, did you?
I wasn't a big fan of him personally. I did like Vane and one or two of the others.
Also, Fry's Chocolate in Bristol were the first company in the world to manufacture a chocolate bar. They were the first people to do it. I don't know.
Oh.
It doesn't say whether they were the first people to get chocolate or whether they were like, oh, there's a lot of chocolate here. Why don't we put it in the form of a bar? No one else had that idea, so they're like, "Oi, I got an idea here, right? See this big bowl of chocolate? Yeah, when we put it in a square and sell it." That must
What
be
do we
mine.
call it? What do they call this chocolate?
Fry's Chocolate. They were also the first to make chocolate Easter eggs too. So once they pioneered the shape of a bar, they must have gone like, let's really push the boat out now. All right, I've got something a bit crazy again. They probably like Stan. You've had enough mad ideas, you have, haven't you? No, I've got one more. Right, we make it in the shape of an egg. Egg, yeah, put an egg. But no egg, no bird in it, just chocolate. That could have happened.
I mean, I don't know why Reading don't start doing some Easter potatoes.
A hero Easter potato. I'm sure they do Easter potatoes. Kids would be grabbing them off the shelves. Also in Bristol, the first ever bungee jump took place from the Clifton Suspension Bridge in 1979. So that's the first ever bungee jump. I don't know who would come up with the idea of throwing yourself off a bridge, even with rope sort of attached to you. What I found more interesting was it was done by Oxford's University's Dangerous Sports Club. I'm not entirely sure if dangerous sports clubs are a thing. I don't know about you, but I've never heard of a dangerous sports club anymore. So my thinking is, back in the 80s, there was dangerous sports clubs. They threw themselves off bridges, and they've all been killed off. So that's why we never heard of them anymore. Here's another big one. Ribena was invented in Bristol. That's
Wow,
huge.
that's a big one.
Um,
Yeah,
it's invented at the National Fruit and Cider Institute.
yeah.
Um, and it's also the world's biggest manufacturer of hot air balloons. That's Bristol, not Ribena. They haven't got like the monopoly on balloons and soft drinks or whatever drinks. Um, more Fools and Horses. Nelson Mandela House is directly behind Ashton Gate.
Well, there we go. There's a turn for the
I
books.
actually thought it was in Hackney.
Yeah.
Here's another one. This is quite bizarre. Bristol invented time travel. Now I'll read
What?
this because it I know, I know. So, a small piece of our time travelling history can be seen in the clock at the entrance of St. Nick's Market. It shows Bristol time and London time. Before the invention of GMT, trains travelling to and from Bristol and London used to use separate timetables 15 minutes apart. It was therefore thought that you could basically travel 15 minutes. And do you know what? I've confused myself to what I've written down, but it said on the website they invited time travel. I'm happy with that. I'm passing it. Um, it's as bizarre as it sounds. It doesn't make sense. Let's all just sit here, watch us go, yeah, Bristol invented time.
Oh,
Oh,
they did that. Yeah.
okay, no, that's fine. One of the sort of odder things now I found, coming towards the end of some of these, is the Steam Crane pub in Bristol was once
Yeah.
home to a tiger. Um,
What?
yeah, I don't know why you'd keep a tiger in a pub. In 1827, Mr. Martin, the landlord of the Bull on North Street,
Hmm.
now the Steam Crane pub, purchased a live tiger from the dock, just to basically sit in his pub. Um, the guy Martin, then decided, to get the punters a bit more happy and things, he paid a man, Joseph Kiddle, to enter the cage with a tiger, um, as a bit of a cabaret. He got ripped apart within seconds. I don't know what happened to the tiger. The pub's still there. I don't think the tiger is. And yeah, it gets a bit odder, to be fairly honest, to think so. In Bristol, there's a book bound with human skin. Um,
Wow.
it's in a
The hell?
museum. Yeah, some bloke apparently. I think it was proper other people's skin, so I think he got in trouble for it. Um,
Yeah.
whatever happened, I don't know what happened to him, but his book is now in a museum. It's got loads of, yeah, a book of skin, so that's good. Also, this, I don't know how much of this is true, but relating back to the hot air balloons in Bristol. In Bristol, hot air balloons, they were, made there, and there was a lot of rides there years ago. And when they were all going
Yeah.
up on the hot air balloons, people used to parachute out with them.
Hmm.
Once an owner went up with his cat and
Yeah.
made his cat a parachute, and his cat successfully parachuted out of a hot air balloon. So in Bristol is the first ever parachuting cat, which I just think is badass.
It is badass. And also the pioneers of cruelty to animals, perhaps.
No, we don't celebrate like throwing cats out of balloons on this show, but um, anyway, I'll move on lastly to the manager, Paul Rushworth. So he got back to me with some sort of good stuff.
Yeah.
He's related to ex-Sunderland goalkeeper Jimmy Montgomery.
Yeah.
He's had run-ins with Wes Hoolahan and Keegan Parker. The way he said it to me, he had run-ins. I don't know whether he means, because he said he used to play football with them at Stanley Park in Blackpool. Whether he
Yeah.
means he just played with them or he had some sort of confrontation, I don't know. But also, he's got one of his good friends is called Scott Tanzer, who plays for St Johnstone. I don't
Okay.
know, maybe we could ask him to endorse this show and get the first professional footballer to actually recognise this show as an official thing. I'm not sure. We could try that. And that's what I've got on Bristol. Um,
Fantastic.
move on to your next one.
Well, my God, I mean, who would have thought, Bristol's got such a rich cultural heritage with the book and the cats and the balloons. I mean,
Tigers in a pub.
it's made me want to know more, to be honest with you. So I'll be looking into that after a fantastic update there. Thanks, Phil. Okay, so let's have a little look at. I got Cardiff and Shrewsbury left, so let's go. We'll leave Cardiff to last. I'm a Cardiff fan, so we'll go with Shrewsbury next, okay? And the manager of Shrewsbury is Ashley Ruthless Murtagh. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce your name, Ashley, so apologies if it's wrong.
Murtagh or Murtagh. Is he the guy who keeps complaining about his team being rubbish?
I think so, yeah, which, is kind of understandable, really, being Shrewsbury. Of course. So, a little bit about Shrewsbury. No, a little bit about Ashley, sorry, first. Well, Ashley lived in Asia for 3 in the Philippines. So he's come across a lot of cultures. He says he can live his life without his mobile phone quite easy. When I asked if he met any famous people, he said, well, living in Stoke, it's hard not to. I find that quite hard to believe, to be honest with you.
Living in Stoke, it's hard not to meet famous people. Has he confused Stoke with someone?
There was no exclamation mark on the end of it. I'm sure it was meant to be a joke.
Oh, right, I see. Sorry, I thought that was actually a real comment. Well, people from Stoke, Phil Taylor, Robbie Williams.
Robbie Williams, yeah. Actually, his sister used to date Robbie Williams, his neighbour's son.
That's good. That's good. That's up there.
I like that. And he also played darts in a club up in Packmore with Jonathan Wilkes. Had a drink of Adrian Jackpot Lewis. I'm not sure who this guy is, but obviously he's famous.
Adrian Lewis, Dada. Big Dada.
Right. But then he got married and changed and became a bit boring, as happens to all of us, really. He used to play pool at a pub next to the local theatres in a snooker hall named Reardon's, and he met Dave Harold. Disliked him, very arrogant apparently.
I can understand.
So Ashley's done a bit of research into his team, and he knows the capacity and what they've won and all that, and he obviously knows he's on a big job here at Shrewsbury. He also wanted to say he's really enjoying the game world, the interaction and everything, and he's doing his best. He thanks Rob for all he did. And he says, finally, I'm a firm believer in learning more from defeat than in victory. So you can imagine the extensive knowledge I'm gathering while being a Shrewsbury town manager. So hats off to you, Ash. I like the humour there. So
I like that.
Just going to move on to a couple of snippets about Shrewsbury. They were formed in 1886, and as we know from the last show, they used to play in Gay Meadow, but we're wrong. So they actually play in New Meadow now.
Is it the new House Meadow or the new lawn, or they changed it a few times?
Yeah, just New Meadow accordingly at the moment.
They dropped the gays.
They dropped the gays, can you believe it? And there's a couple of facts. They lasted 10 years in Division 2 between 79 and 89, which for a club of their size is absolutely fantastic, because they are a small club. They won the Welsh Club 6 times, which is a record for an English side.
That justifies us doing them in this sort of Welsh area review now, doesn't it? That's why the fans have to stop there.
And there's a couple of little bits and pieces about him as well. Charles Darwin lived there until his late 20s, and Carol Decker, the little sex bomb from to power in the 80s, was born there as well. So there we go. Their accent is a mixture of Welsh, Birmingham, Liverpool, and the Welsh West Country. So I'd dread to think.
I wouldn't even like to try and Welsh. Birmingham, so Birmingham with a bit of Welsh in it. So it's a bit like Birmingham with a bit. I know that hurts my voice to think about that, to be honest.
And in the Middle Ages, Welshmen had to pay an admission fee if they wanted to come to town on market day, whereas English people didn't. So it wouldn't have been too good for me and you, Phil, if we'd have fancied going down to buy, a pound of Reading potatoes on Sunday.
I can't believe
it cost us £2.
We have to pay a toll for our Easter potatoes.
And I got one kind of final fact for you, really. There's this. With little heavy industry, the town was largely ignored by German bombers during World War II. But in 1940, a woman and her 2 grandchildren were killed when a cottage was destroyed on Ellesmere Road, which is really sad. So in the 60s, town planners, they were miffed that the Germans hadn't bombed them, and the Germans didn't deem Shrewsbury important enough to bomb the town properly. So the town planners decided to wreck a bit of Shrewsbury themselves.
What?
They found a large area of quaint half-timbered houses and businesses, and they destroyed that to make way for the world-famous Raven Meadows multi-storey car park.
I know.
So,
we didn't get bombed in the war. Let's bomb. Let's
destroy beautiful houses.
Let's destroy our own city and then build a car park.
And that's maybe when the royal family will be buried in the future. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or attendants to be buried there.
Queen sweating nervously while looking at that car park in Shrewsbury.
Please, on Raven Meadows multi-story. I want to be in Reading with the potatoes.
Potatoes.
I say potato. You say potato.
Potato burial.
Okay, so that's Reading done, Phil. Moving on to part two for you, my man.
Right, so I'll start with uh, the name of the team. That helps, doesn't it? Plymouth. So the
Hmm.
manager is Anderson Colas. Before I go any further, I spoke to him, asked him did he want anything. He didn't really want to say anything, which is fine. You don't have to, if you don't want to give us anything. He did say he was a Liverpool fan and he's from Mauritius.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I could squeeze out of him. But Plymouth, stadium, home park, nicknamed the Pilgrims.
Mm.
Basically, I think a lot of people know this story. It was from an English religion group that went to the New World in 1620 on the ship the Mayflower. They went to Massachusetts. I always
Yeah.
remember years ago when Plymouth played Baston, and it was Baston United versus Plymouth, the Pilgrims versus the men from Massachusetts. A lot of people know Plymouth from the adverts with Paul Whitehouse when he goes
Yeah.
the Janners Green Army. I will be getting I'll be getting round to the Janners in a bit. The club was founded as Argyle FC.
Mm.
Much of the speculation, there's a lot of speculations over around the origin of the name.
Yeah.
One is that sort of the Argyle were like a really sort of elite Southern Highlanders army fighting regiment they were named after.
Mm.
The other one is that it was named after the pub called the Argyle Tavern. So it's essentially, I
Really
think,
up the pub one there.
it's the pub. It's the blokes in the pub trying to big up that they weren't just a pub team. Um, Whenever I think of Plymouth, personally, I always think about ginsters. I
Yeah.
don't know, like I don't even know how you pronounce that. Would it be ginsters or ginsters or gangsters?
We're only gangsters. I, I'd say ginsters. So if anyone can enlighten us, it'd be nice to know.
Gangsters sounds like someone saying gangsters in an accent. Hey, look at them
Gangsters.
gangsters over there.
How are gangsters, pie?
um, right. So, my older brother lives in Plymouth. Just a bit of a Plymouth fact, and he sent me
Yeah.
like, I was showing you, Mark, wasn't I? Like a massive. This is the type of research he sent me. So thanks for that, Tom.
Uh,
I had to go through it with a bit of pen. I'm not sure I can get it all down, but we'll try and fit in some of it. The first £1 million football player was born in Plymouth, Trevor Francis.
oh, okay.
I noticed he came up in yours, so he's come up in mine. Charles Darwin. So it's twice he's
Yeah.
appeared. Right?
Wow.
Charles Darwin lived in Plymouth for 3 months. He allegedly said, and he allegedly said and was quoted as saying Plymouth was the 15th best place he ever visited.
I do feel sorry for Darwin, Shrewsbury and Plymouth.
He's had a terrible life, isn't he? Britain's oldest bakery is on the Barbican in Plymouth. It's called
Mhm.
Jacker Bakery.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, putting all that together sounds a bit like it's off the Pirates of the Caribbean. The Jacar Bakery on the Barbican. Jack Sparrow, you'll find the oldest bread in the Jacar Bakery on the Barbican. But that's that. Right. So I'll move on to a few things that my brother sent me as well while I'm going through this. So let's have a little look what he's. We were speaking about this earlier. This is Francis Drake. Apparently, he was playing bowls one day
Mhm.
when an assistant come up to him and said, "The Spanish Armada is coming around the corner to attack." To which he basically said, "Piss off! I want to finish my game of bowls first." So
I do.
must be a sort of a strong bowls game playing in Plymouth. It's the biggest city in the UK to never have had a team in the top flight.
Oh, okay, that's an interesting fact, Phil.
Yeah, in the top flight. Plymouth have a supporters website called Passotti, which sounds like a nice Italian delicacy or name, but really the abbreviation is more boring than that. So it just really accounts for Plymouth Argyle supporters on the internet. So Passotti sounded so promising, and then it's like, oh, right, it's actually really, really dull. It's just a complete description of what it is. The informal nickname, so we're coming on to some parts I've written about as well. The
Yeah,
Jana.
yeah.
The Jana comes from Cousin Jane. And
Oh, yeah.
Cousin Jane, which is, let's have a look. I do honestly, he's got given me so much research, I haven't even read through it all, so I'm just gonna read it as I said.
Yeah.
No, do you know what? That's actually all that really said. Oh, apparently he's written this in big capital letters, so it must be a really sore point in Plymouth.
Yeah.
If you want to cross the Tama River, you have to pay £1.50 to either use the Tama Bridge or the Tor Point Ferry. In capital letters, neither accepts card. So obviously, Tom, you must be suffering with that. So apologies. So now I'll move on to speaking about the Janners, going to Janners. So I decided to look up a lot of Jannerisms, and I found something called the Janner textbook. How to become a Janner and learn Jannerisms. This was made by someone who said he wanted people who weren't from Plymouth to be able to roam freely amongst other Janners and not feel like they left out. So, firstly, you must add an S or put ers to virtually every letter you say in Plymouth. For instance, I'll put that into a sentence. I'm going to Asda's, or I'm going to do my lotteries. The word later is now spelled Lechter. Letter. I'll be there letter. I'm doing that letter. Also, getting oddly aggressive and ending a word with R is quite a good thing. So if you're saying I was going to, it's I'm gonna. Also, words that end in BLE, such as horrible, now have to end in BOW, like bow. So it's horrible. That was horrible. If you want to greet someone, you've got to say "reet met." I've literally written it out. 1,000 E's and a T, and met MEHHT. And lastly, in it is added to nearly every sentence at the end for absolutely no reason at all, even if it's not in context. Even if the person's written, if the sentence you're saying ends in it, you must add another in it to it. So with all of this, I'm going to send you over now some pretext, just a sentence mark for you to read off how to speak like a Janner. So this is a talk like a Janner challenge. So if you can read what I just sent you over.
All right, then let's give it a go. So I'm gonna give it my best Jannerism. Read, mate. Here I'm going to Home Park later in it. Reckons the weather's gonna be horrible.
Oh, that was prophecy. I don't know if anyone can get hold of this, but if you ever want to go to Plymouth and fit in the Janner textbook, because Mark is now a Janner essentially now from that, and with that is me done on Plymouth. So we'll go over now to the last two, which are both our hometowns. So Mark, if you want to roll with Cardiff first.
Cardiff City, managed by Lionel Gearberg. I'm not sure if I pronounced your surname correctly, Lionel. Apologies if I haven't. So Lionel was very kind, and he got back to me with a nice piece about him. Okay, Lionel likes travelling. When he was in Venice, he had a fight with a taxi driver. As soon as he got there, he had many problems actually in Venice. This taxi driver was a fake taxi. He had to be, in a separate instance, he had to be rescued by the police from a fake taxi driver. They also tried to charge him €15 commission for changing $100. Another taxi driver, they agreed a fee of €60 plus €10 to carry the bags, because it's a dangerous activity carrying bags in a taxi, apparently. It was a 30-second thing for the driver to put the bags into the cab. So Lino, being Lino, was irritated. When he arrived at the hotel, he went to pay, and the driver tried to add an extra €10 because they got an extra 2 blocks. So of course he had another fight with him.
Can we stop doing the show and just get him on and just do the Lino Goldberg show? He sounds like a comedy character.
Lino, you are a legend. And moving on, I mean, this is a fantastic fact. I'm really keen to find out a little bit more about him. Lino actually owns his own shoe brand in Argentina. And I'm not sure what the shoe brand is, he didn't say. But he's had 2 Boca Junior players that have come in and bought shoes off him. And they are Agustin Rossi, the reserve goalkeeper, and also Julio Buffarini, who played at the start at the last Libertadores Cup final. And he says it was amazing to get up close and speak to them and find out about their life as Boca players. Fantastic. So Lino, let us know on the chat, the name of your shoes, because you may get some orders from abroad. Who knows?
TFSL sponsor. Why do we sponsor?
Yeah,
When you get a shoe sponsor of the show, Tea Party Tour
yeah,
brand, make
yeah.
custom shoes.
Could be huge. I mean, he's been to the UK. He went to London a couple of years ago. It was nice, but he wants to do more cities like Edinburgh, Cardiff, Glasgow, Dublin, and Birmingham because he's a big fan of Peaky Blinders, as I know I am, and I know you are as well. And he also did finish off in saying this: if anyone wants to come to Argentina at any time, let him know. They go watching good football, eat really good food, not only barbecue, because they have lots of cultures and great people there. So, Lino, fantastic response.
That sounds like an open invite. I mean, we should go. We do a show from Argentina.
Yeah.
Me and you, and we'll just fight taxi drivers all day.
Fantastic. So, gracias, Lino, for that information. Muy importante and muy bueno. Very good. And moving on to Cardiff now, a few facts. Well, Cardiff is my hometown, as you know, so I know quite a bit about them anyway. I'm not going to go on. I'm going to try and keep it interesting, okay? Just a quick couple here. They were formed in 1899, sorry, and we play at the CCS, which is one of these plastic Lego grounds like everybody's got these days. Couple of interesting facts about the city. Just going back to Blackbeard, Phil, we mentioned earlier, he was actually born in the Llanrumney area of Cardiff in 1635.
So basically, we've had Darwin and Blackbeard twice in one night.
Yeah, so, you know, Blackbeard, one of the world's famous pirates, comes from our neck of the woods, so, you know, a lot of nutters down here. Like to think I'm related, but I somehow doubt it. In 1897, Cardiff Council had a mole catcher on its books. So there's obviously a problem with moles in the city. I don't remember, nor does my nan, if anybody's asking.
I don't remember, nor does my nan.
And there's another fact here. Bill Shankly, the legendary Bill Shankly, when he first took over Liverpool, his first game was down in Cardiff, and they got spanked 4-0.
Oh.
So there you are. That was Liverpool spanked 4-0 by Cardiff. So, and he went on to turn it around. So who would have thought, you know, after that first day, Bill Shankly walked away with his head between his legs.
In Cardiff.
And he turns the greatest ever manager. And then just a couple of other little bits and pieces you might find interesting. The nickname the Bluebirds, I'm not sure if any of you know where they got that from, because it's a bit of an unusual nickname. And this actually came from 1911, because there was a play in Cardiff City Centre written by Maurice Maeterlinck, who won a Nobel Prize for literature, and it was called The Bluebird of Happiness. And it's believed a Cardiff supporter caught up in the hype, christened the club because it just changed to blue. It's the Bluebirds. So that's quite interesting. And then, I don't know if anybody's aware, I know you will be, Phil, of the Ayatollah. The Ayatollah is a terrorist. And I'm going to do the Ayatollah now. And it involves patting your head, like so. Phil, if we could just get you to do the Ayatollah as a jack.
I don't think I will, to be honest, Mark. I think I'll pass.
It's a big offence to ask a Swansea fan to do the Ayatollah. But I'll keep this interesting for you guys. So Cardiff fans have a tendency to jump up and down and go, do the Ayatollah, do the Ayatollah, and we'll ask all the players and the managers to do it, okay?
We have a similar thing to that where we say, slap your head if you're a twat.
I like it. So this was actually started in the 90s, believe it or not. It was originally performed by a singer and a fan of Cardiff, who from a Welsh punk group called You Fans, okay? And then Cardiff were playing Lincoln at Sinsel Bank a few days later, after they played in the city. And on the news that week, there had been footage of the Ayatollah Khomeini had just passed away. And to express their grief, the Iranian people, they were slapping their heads. So this is why it's called the Ayatollah, okay? So a guy called Phil Stead, also known as Eric the Red, one of the Cardiff fans, you know, he started it at Sinsel Bank. And I'm going to quote here from Gareth Lewis, a fan who knows him. I can't remember exactly, but we were playing Lincoln away. A few of his mates started doing it as well, and the craze took off from there. I can assure you there's nothing sinister about it. And then in 1990 as well, there was a big earthquake, which really sadly killed 35,000 Iranians. And again, that event, you know, the morning was tapping the head with the forehand. So that's why we do the Ayatollah, guys. It wasn't Sam Haman, as a lot of people think, you know, in the 2000s or late 90s.
That's what I thought it was, to be honest, but no. Yeah.
And yeah, it's lived on to this day, you know. So it's something that's gone 20 odd years, you know, and it's really big down here. So you know, Lionel, sorry, I hope, you know, this has enlightened you a little bit more about the club that you're managing in TFSL. And that's Cardiff done for me. So hopefully you enjoyed that little snippet.
Right. So I'll do Swansea, my hometown. Obviously, I now live in Cardiff, but I am from Swans. Um, Stadium is the Liberty Stadium, same as Mark, really echoing his statements. It's just a Lego bowl, really, formerly the Vetch, which does have a special place in my heart. Nicknamed the Jacks. Don't know if people know why they nicknamed the Jacks. I'll go with it. Basically, there was a dog in Swansea when we had the loads of work in the docks for the Swansea Jack. His name was
Yeah.
Jack, and he'd basically save sailors who were drowning and things. The tradition carries on to this day where on Wine Street, in our drinking street on a Saturday night, you can see many dogs saving blokes as well early on in the morning. So that's carried through. What I will also ask Mark to do now, because it is, we're out in Wales, and I've sent him this, is to pronounce Tour Fusion Super League's Tea Party Tour of Britain in Welsh for everyone. So I don't know if you want to. I haven't had a go at this myself. I wouldn't know where to start because it looks.
I'm going to give it a go. I do like trying pronunciations, but for those who don't know, I probably speak more Spanish and Turkish than I do Welsh because it's not something that we learn here. So let's give it a go. Cyfansom ymyniad super cyngra tea party taith o Brydain.
Yeah, I don't think you'll ever hear that ever spoken again anywhere. But yeah, anyway, Swansea were originally formed as Swansea Villa before we changed over to Swansea Town and then
Yeah.
Swansea City. Quite funny with your fact about Shankly because I've also got a fact of a footballing debut in England written down myself. Ozzy Ardiles made his footballing debut at the Vetchfield. In less than 1 minute, Tommy Smith launched a chest air tackle on him, which nearly broke him in two. Apparently, so Swansea, we nearly destroyed a great footballing talent in under a minute. This is quite interesting. I didn't know this myself until delving into it. It is believed that Arsene Wenger gave his first ever English interview after a European Cup tie against Swansea when the Swans
Wow.
when the Swans qualified through the Welsh Cup and played Monaco, who he was manager
Ah.
at the time. Dylan Thomas quoted Swansea. He was one of our most famous sons as an ugly, lovely town. To which the film Twin Town years later, if you've seen it, put it in a better sentiment and called us a pretty shitty city.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Swansea was once known as the copper metropolis of the world. We had the most copper exports ever. Sadly for Swansea, that is pretty much as good as it's ever got for us. Some other interesting facts in Swansea now. You can get a blowjob cheaper than a sausage roll. A sausage roll weighing in around 70p in certain streets and shops. No, wait. Yeah, it's a sausage roll. Blowjob prices dip out now, but I think the blowjob is about £1. Sausage roll about 120. So I mean, in terms of nights out in Swansea, if you like your women tangoed, friends in tight tops or pumped with roids with an ecstasy of violence, drugs, Swansea's a night out for you. But in Swansea we do have some sort of beautiful places. We have good beaches. Rosilly in Gower was voted one of the nicest beaches in Europe one year. Sadly in Swansea we have to dirty even the Gower. A common phrase among locals is going down the Gower for an hour, which involves taking a girl in a Citroen Saxo down there at night and receiving a warm sausage roll from her.
So less than the top of a sausage roll.
So Dan Hughes, anyway, he got back to me with some great stuff. It's another example of someone having a fantastic life and us not. Dan works for a football club, which I actually read about a few days before speaking to him. He works for a football club called CD Ulmancia City. It's a small club in Spain made up of English, American, Brazilian players and a few Spanish. They've started at quite a low level, but they've started to smash through the leagues. Sort of like when people put loads of money into the lower English level clubs and raise them up. When he actually told me who he worked for, I knew because I don't know him personally, but I know people who know him. There's a guy called Kyle Kopp who used to play for the Swans. I like sort of our reserves, and he's gone out there and he plays out there. I think he basically. Dan Hughes works out there. I don't exactly know what he does on the coaching side, but they're all trying to get noticed, so they're all on the market really in Spain, but at the same time trying to move this club sort of closer. He did also tell me, which I thought was quite funny, he said, while I've been living out here, I got my first couple of tattoos. I haven't told my family, but they'll find out when I come home for Christmas.
Oh.
He did also say in brackets, I don't know if that qualifies as funny or entertaining. It does actually, Dan. That is fine. I asked him about famous people and anything like that, and he said he once sat next to Manuel Pellegrini on a flight home from Malaga. So, I mean, that's
Oh.
quite good. I mean, Manuel Pellegrini for me is in the same bracket of people like Avram Grant, who just look like everybody's grandpa. If you say, what does your grandpa look like? One of them two, probably. Like, round up to the nearest 10 is one of them two. And
Only thing is this mole catcher in Cardiff, Pellegrini.
Pellegrini, yeah, he used to work as a mole catcher in the 40s in Cardiff. But that's great stuff from Dan. Again, we've had so far them's that. You got a guy with his Argentinian shoe brands. Rene the man works with Edgar Davids. It sort of just makes me feel worse about myself every week. We keep asking for people for stories
Yeah,
about their life. Really,
yeah,
we're waiting.
yeah,
I'm waiting for more mediocre people to come on. But yeah, that's it for this week now. I guess we're gonna have to have a little think and probably regroup after Christmas now. It does take a few weeks to get these shows out because of
yeah.
writing, scheduling, and finding all the things. But yeah, what I will ask this week, I don't know how many people do watch this who are good on TFSL, but if you've got any sort of logo making equipment, if you want to have a go or a stab at making us a better logo, because I did mine on Paint in about 15 minutes, as you can tell, and it is awful. But yeah, that's done from me then. So I will see you all on the next time the fun bus goes off. We don't know where
Yeah.
to yet, but we will let you know when it is. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, Phil,
Goodbye.
a legend. Happy Christmas, Phil. Happy Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas all. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye. Bye.